Now that we have finished the setup steps, let's switch gears and look at how the intercompany billing process works in Dynamics AX. Keep in mind that the intercompany billing solution in AX emphasizes a flexible process that's intended to provide the ability to adjust what the lending company charges the borrowing entity, defer the revenue recognition on the lending side until the borrowing entity recognizes the cost, provide the ability to accrue revenue, as we have seen in the intercompany tab setting on the project management parameters. And finally, the ability to capture a full audit trail of the billing process through the intercompany customer and vendor invoice documents. Last but not least, the ability to support tax calculation and indirect costs, as well as defining various transfer pricing models, adds to the richness of the solution. In the next demo, we will look at how this end-to-end process works in AX. For the purpose of our demo, we are using a scenario where the lending company is referred to as the US SI as the provider of the services. The borrowing company is referred to as the FRSI, or the French subsidiary, which holds the contract with the end customer and holds the actual project on the borrowing side. Let's start with recording an intercompany timesheet on the USSI, or the lending company, in this scenario. So we're going to go ahead and enter time on behalf of this employee, Chiro Okada. And we're going to pick the French subsidiary in this case. Pick the project, which is time and material, and record 5 days worth of, or 3 days worth of work that we have performed on behalf of the French subsidiary. We're going to go ahead and submit this for approval. And wait until our timesheet is ready for approval and is posted. In the meantime, we're going to also add another transaction type. We will use the vendor invoice. For that, we're going to head over to the accounts payable module and create a vendor invoice. And we're going to charge some expenses against the project in the French subsidiary. So we're going to pick the vendor that we are paying, enter a invoice number and a date, and we enter the actual expenses. In this case, we can pick photocopy. I'm going to say that a quantity of 4 and a unit of each, and a unit price of $1 for the sake of simplicity. And on the line details, we go to the project tab, and here we've opened up the legal entity drop-down box, so you can pick the French subsidiary against which you're charging those expenses, pick the actual project for which we want to charge for these costs, and we pick a matching category, which in this case would be copy, and then we can see that we have bumped up the unit price by 10%, as you can see here. Now that we're ready to post this vendor expense, we can go ahead and click on post. And now we have 2 transaction types that we have recorded. One is for timesheets, and the other is for vendor invoices. Let's go back to the project module. And here we see our timesheet that we have posted. It's still in review, so we're going to go ahead and approve that. And while we're at it, we can always check to see if it has been posted or if we need to manually post it. In this case, we can go ahead and manually post it. So now we're ready to actually generate an intercompany customer invoice. So we head over to the project invoices group, and then there is the intercompany customer invoice. Once we click on that, we click on the new, and now we want to charge the French subsidiary with all the pending costs related to the timesheet, expense reports, and vendor invoices. I should note here that in the interest of time, I have already created an intercompany expense report, which you probably have seen in the expense management module, and posted it so we can pick it up also here. As you can see, I see my 3 timesheet entries for 8 from the 26th through the 28th. And I see a vendor invoice that we have entered for the copy services. Here's my 8 hours that I've entered. And I've also entered, as I said, an intercompany expense report and posted it so it's available for us to be picked up. So I'm going to select all of these to be included on the invoice. And now I have my intercompany customer invoice ready to be posted. And as we have mentioned, at this point, we will recognize the revenue that will go into the intercompany revenue accounts, and also we will generate an intercompany vendor invoice on the contracting side, i.e. the French subsidiary. So I'm going to go ahead and post this. And at this point, I have recognized those costs and revenue on the lending side. I've also generated the matching vendor invoice or intercompany vendor invoice on the borrowing side. So I'm going to head over to the French subsidiary, FRSI, go to the AP module, open the pending vendor invoice. Remember, it has not been posted, so those costs are still committed costs. As you can see, here is my intercompany vendor invoice that was auto-generated. And as you can see, here's the 3 timesheet entries for the 3 days that I have recorded. Here is the 4 copies of photocopy services that I have incurred. And here's the expense report for $20 that I have already recorded on the lending side. So at this point, I am ready to go ahead and post this intercompany vendor invoice. And as a result, those pending commitments, project commitments on the French subsidiary project will become actual costs, and they will be ready to be invoiced to the final customer. That's the end-to-end intercompany billing process in AX.